Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. So I want to go over some of the updates for the Philadelphia Eagles after this fantastic win. Eagles are 4-0, beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, and with the weather that was kind of crazy. So let's get straight into the news.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
What is going on, guys? So I kind of want to talk about a few things that happened even after the game, and some of the things I kind of just want to talk about just on topic, just from after this game and what I've seen so far. And since I've relaxed just a little bit, I got to say with James Bradberry, this is just amazing. This is going to be a really hard decision at the end of the year because I know that James Bradberry is going to make his money after this year. I mean, you look at James Bradberry's stats, okay? He's got 10 catches allowed in 23 snaps, 73 yards allowed, 0 touchdowns allowed, 2 picks, and 4 pass breakups. I mean, there are teams that just don't even want to throw his way. And when it happens, I'm telling you, I know that, the Jacksonville Jaguars game was a little different because Bradberry ended up getting hurt. Maddox was already out of the game for that game, and you had Josiah Scott in there. You had a lot of moving pieces with Zach McPherson, so it was definitely a different secondary in this Jacksonville game. But James Bradberry this is going to be a tough one at the end of the year because he is, from a guy that had over 800 yards receiving, that allowed 800 yards receiving over that with the Giants last year. And the Giants fans were pretty mad that they were letting him go. And I know it's the easy assumption that, the Giants didn't want to pay him. I think they wanted him to take a pay cut, and he wouldn't take a pay cut. So the Eagles, he ended up getting released, and the Eagles pounced on this as fast as possible. And for the future of this team, with Big Play Slay, with one more year left on his contract going to next year, you got 2 first-round picks and the endless possibilities you have to maybe draft a corner in the first round and have them play behind Slay and Bradberry and let him learn and let him get better. And then when his chance comes, he's going to be in a great situation. Hopefully, Slay gets an extension as well after next year, so they could definitely extend him, probably save some money, something like that. But with Bradberry, didn't think that he would be playing this good. Like, I loved the signing when it happened and had a good training camp, and I just need to see him play good in NFL games, and really has worked out as a number 2 corner, not a big hoorah type of guy, not really gonna excite everybody on the field, but he leads by example. And even the pick that he had, the other day against, going to Christian Kirk, you saw Trevor Lawrence just eyeing Christian Kirk the whole entire time when the Eagles had full out pressure on Trevor Lawrence, and did a fantastic job jumping in front of him to grab that pick. And this guy has been so amazing. It is hard for me to say that I don't want this guy to leave. I really don't. I mean, this is a really good situation for us Eagles fans because James Bradberry is relatively young still, and Slay could probably play for a few more years. You could retain at least Bradberry for a couple more years. I don't care if it's a 2-year extension or something. Keep this man in the building. You could draft a first-round corner next year if you want. And I understand that people don't want to redshirt a guy like that, but to already have another guy in the building that could be a backup and that's going to get some playing time depending on what they do, it would be a really good time to do it if you want to keep this secondary alive for years to come, because you paid Bradberry $10 million this year for the year, and I think he'll get a payday. And I think the other side of it is either he wants to get paid and go to a crappy team that just wants him, or I think Slay is going to help him out a little bit and try to keep him in Philadelphia after this year. And I think that's probably a big plan that he has at the end of the season. And it's so funny, at the end of this game when they had the press conferences in the locker room, Bradberry was getting the press conference, and Slay was like, you know what the question is? The question is, I don't know how the Giants let you go, or something like that. And it was just so funny. But they let him go because they couldn't afford him. They had too many bad contracts. At this point, they were locked in way too many bad contracts. And Bradberry wanted more money, wanted an extension, wanted more money, and they wouldn't give it to him. They tried to have him get a pay cut this year. He wouldn't take it. So they flat out released him. And that's pretty much the story. We are very lucky right now because the cornerback room for years hasn't been great. Other than that Super Bowl year, and you had a great pass rush to kind of bandage up that secondary a little bit, and now having a pass rush that's getting better every week, plus having the coverage that you're getting is very exciting. So for James Bradberry, couldn't be any happier about it. Next, I want to go to Hassan Reddick. I mean, Reddick has been just absolutely amazing. I mean, really, since the start of the season, he was our first signing of the season, and we were saying to ourselves, this guy is going to wreak havoc. We literally have, a strip artist. We have a strip artist at defensive end right now, and Gannon. It's really up to Gannon to make this happen, guys. He went 2 games without a sack, and then the third game he had a sack and a half or a sack, whatever the case may be, and then this last game he had 2 forced fumbles and 2 sacks in this game, guys. Like, Hassan Reddick is a weapon. Stop using him in coverage. I understand when he played for Arizona, played for, Carolina, he was a coverage / type, outside linebacker type, edge rush player. And they just didn't, with this system right now, we don't need it. It's already enough. I don't like Josh Sweat going in coverage because it just looks weird, and I don't think it really makes a difference. But with Hassan Reddick and what he could do, he's a strip sack artist. I mean, automatically, when his hand is on the quarterback, that quarterback is losing the football. And he's getting better every week. It's not even that he's a bad player. He's a fantastic player. It's up to Gannon. I mean, this guy had 23.5 sacks the past 2 seasons. And this really showed me a lot more. Nick Sirianni kind of promised us a week and a half ago, something like that you're going to see a monster game from Hassan Reddick, because the beat writers were asking pretty much how we're trying to ask the coaches, what's going on with Hassan Reddick? You signed this guy, 23.5 sacks in 2 seasons, and you got so much tape on him. When you acquire a guy, you're trying to use that player to their strengths. And it seems like they weren't doing that for a couple weeks. And then you got a sack in the third game, and then this game, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, really made a huge difference here. Reddick is a madman on the outside, and I that's why I want to go into the draft next year and get the best defensive end. Well, it's Will Anderson or whoever the case may be next year, but I love those. We haven't had an edge rusher like that in a while. And I say Brandon Graham was like that, a few years ago. He's been like that, and I think he gets good pressure, but Reddick's just a different animal. And you got him for another 2 years after this year, and I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing to see what he could do in these games and how much of a difference that Hassan Reddick is going to make on the field. It's going to make offenses pay for these quarterbacks. Are going to stay aware. And I wouldn't even mind moving Hassan Reddick around from each side if they get a tackle that's not great and could take advantage of it. But Hassan Reddick playing fantastic, and hope all is well with him the rest of the season, because he's showing nothing but greatness right now. And I hope he gets into double-digit sacks, because otherwise it's a failed season for Hassan Reddick. Not because of him, because of Jonathan Gannon and his usage of him. So that's what I'll talk about with Hassan Reddick. Next, I want to talk about Miles Sanders. And this one, 134 yards on 27 attempts. I mean, that's crazy. Obviously, with the weather, everything that happened in the game, it was kind of like they had no choice but to run more. I mean, I didn't think Hurts was going to have over 300 to 330 yards passing. It just wasn't going to happen in this situation with the weather. So Miles Sanders is a tricky one, because if Miles Sanders does walk in the free agency after this year, he's got 222 yards for the season. He's averaging 5 yards a carry, which is perfect. Last year, he averaged 5 yards a carry, had no touchdowns. He's got, I don't know how many touchdowns he's got for the year so far. I think it's only like 2 or 3, something like that in a few games. Not much, but 222 yards. And I think I'm afraid that he is going to walk into free agency after this year, and the Eagles are just going to let him go. I do not, unless it's relatively really cheap. I just can't see it. He's coming off a rookie contract. This is where the rookies come off of their first contract and they try to secure the bag. They try to secure their futures with the money that they're getting, and that's their startup money for their future. And it's really important. So I don't see him, taking a hometown discount or something like that. As of right now, even if he leaves, I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is a number 1 back. It's just not going to happen. It would make him the number 1 back if he just leaves, but I don't think Gainwell will be that number 1 back for us. If you want to get a Bijan Robinson in the draft next year, or you're not going to go pay another running back unless, Josh Jacobs becomes available for cheap, or he's got another year left on his contract. I don't know the contract details or anything like that. The Eagles have been trying to trade for a running back, and Trey Sermon comes into the fold of this, 4th game, with a couple carries for a bruiser back. Looks pretty good. Want to see more from him. I think Trey Sermon is definitely somebody that could take over as a bruiser back for us, and it could show promise behind a great offensive line. You have an offensive line right now with depth that is good for the next decade and a half. That's how good we have it right now. So you don't have to pay running backs like mid-tier contracts or high contracts. I just don't believe the Eagles are going to be into throwing Miles Sanders that much money. I'd be shocked if they paid him $40 million if that's the case. I mean, we'll see what he does. If he can get 1,100 to 1,200 yards this year, then yeah, we're in deep trouble to keep him on this roster after this year, and he might walk and go somewhere else. I mean, Miles knows it's a contract year. He's playing tough. He's playing angry. There's so much, and I could tell with his run style, there's just so much fight. He hits contact, still driving his legs, still getting extra yards. Just fantastic. He's always been a good yards per carry type running back. I mean, 5 yards a carry is great, and he's getting touchdowns under it now, which is good because last year he didn't. So this is gonna be a real tough one going into the future, because really you're gonna be, Boston Scott's on a 1-year deal this year. I mean, so then you're pretty much down to Kenneth Gainwell still in his rookie contract, and Trey Sermon maybe. I don't know how many more years he has left, so I'm not really sure. But potentially you could have just 2 running backs in here, and it's not going to be enough. So you can go rounds, 3 to 6, or if you want to take a chance on getting somebody top 10, if that's what they want to do. And I don't know, maybe that's the way they go. I'm not really sure, because I'm not a big fan of getting a running back in the top 10 unless he's a generational type talent, like crazy. Like if you get a guy like Bijan Robinson, that's a McCaffrey / Derrick Henry type running back all in one. That's a pretty damn good combination for next year. So we'll see what happens. But Miles, I'm going to keep, supporting Miles. Miles is one of my favorite players on the team. I'm just kind of preparing myself that this might not work out for the Eagles the better he plays. Not like I don't want him to play well. I want him to play very, very well. The situation is just the situation, and that's really it. So should be interesting. Now, lastly, I want to talk about the Saints, and we're going to be updating you guys on the Saints and what they're doing. And obviously, they lost. They played in London with the Vikings, and they actually almost lost the game. Actually, almost won the game. It was pretty close. The Saints are dealing with a lot of injuries. No Michael Thomas. I know Andy Dalton's playing, I think. Jameis Winston wasn't playing. So they got a few injuries, some critical ones there. And I think with the Saints right now, they're 1-3. Okay, they should be 0-4. That I think the Falcons got screwed over in that first game, but they're 1-3 right now. So this pick right now is actually, I think, second overall. It's actually second overall right now. And I understand it's only the 4th game, so this is going to change over time. They have a really tough schedule. It's enough that they lost against the Panthers, which I thought they were going to beat the Panthers because I think they just had a better roster. I'm not a big fan of Baker Mayfield anyway. But that's where the pick is with the Saints, and we'll be updating you guys on that, every couple weeks, every week. We'll see how it goes if I get the information of where this pick is going, because people could kind of see where the pick is going with that. So I was going to talk about the injuries and stuff, but if I could say anything about the injuries, since I don't know until tomorrow, or if you're watching the video on the day that the news comes out about the injuries, like I think Slay will be back next week. I think Mulata will be back after the MRI. It doesn't seem to be bad with both of those players. The ones I should be worried about is probably Samalo. Samalo's probably the one I'm kind of worried about right now. But at this point, like if Sua Opeta has to come in for, a few weeks, if that's going to be the case, I think it's something with the ankle. I don't think it's anything that serious, but he might have to be out a few weeks if that's the case. The bye week is definitely going to help in 3 weeks, because we're going to need it. We're going to need it terribly by that time. So other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. Just want to talk about a few things, some points about the game, and some players that I've kind of been really just want to talk about it since I've calmed down a little bit. Got to calm down a little bit. And that's pretty much it. So you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. SHAKESQUAD up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.